Howdy, folks. I wish I could have made it. We just couldn't swing it. Just really grieves me not to be able to be there with you all to share the grief, to start into this, kind of new realization that we're saying goodbye to Steve at this point. For me, I know I'll see him again. I don't have any question or doubt of that, and I can base that on a lot of conversations. When I got to know Steve, it was with this group. He came up to base camp, and he's one of these kind of bigger than life guys. And I'd gotten to know Hansel, and so that first time up there, we had a bunch of guys at the camp, and I even had to write some of these down. I mean, we had Bruce Whitey, Tom Ferrari, Tom Turrentine, Cheryl Hoyt, Steve Dillard, Dennis White, Jim Boucher, Steve Gaffney. I mean, Steve Gaffney was one of Tim's football guys, and that guy we used to kid like he could just jam his hands into the rock and create his own handholds. I mean, these were strong people. Doug Moon, who was a marathoner. I mean, these are guys that they eventually, this kind of crew pulled off the lowest to the highest. With Hansel and everything, and I got to sag wagon it the first year. Because I was just the little dog running with these guys. Okay, these guys were like incredibly elite athletes. These are world-class climbers and runners. I mean, we're talking guys winning marathons, friends of the original Ironmans, Tinny, the Dick Days boys, or literally ran across. I mean, these are the people I got to hang out with because of Steve Gibbs. And Hansel. And at Summit Expedition, Hansel was just amazing, larger than life, and I could go on and on about Tim. I spent a lot of years working with Tim. And Steve is another one of those people who, God, I just fell in love with the man, I remember the 6 a.m. run and swim. Boom, 6 a.m. you roll out of your bed. We would run down to the lake to wake up. I think it was 1.5 miles, and you're doing a slow morning, I gotta wake up run, and then you'd swim a half mile. And then you come back out and you run back to base camp, and we do stretching and exercises and workouts and all that kind of stuff. And I remember the first time I ran, and I was not in the greatest of shape, and I was okay. I mean, I could ski my brains out, but I wasn't like these guys. These guys trained for hardcore. I mean, Tom Turrentine, this guy could reach up and do I saw him do it, a one-finger, one-handed pull-up at the beginning, full like that, at the beginning of the climbing season. And when he was in shape, the guy could put a knuckle in a crack and hang there. These guys were incredible. And Steve would come up, and he was working the railroad and everything, and he had a little bit of one of these, and he would come up and bemoan that because, and the first time that I ran, I'm running and I'm kind of working at it, and Steve's kind of jogging along next to me, and he was talking the whole time, just like, isn't this amazing? And just, hey, and we're just getting to know each other, and I'm like, and Steve is just like he was breathing hard, okay, but he just kept talking, and I figured it out. He was just kind of being nice to the guy that was like picking up the tail end. Sorry about that. I don't want to stop this one. And so, Steve, the allergies are just brutal this time of year, and I'm standing right in the middle of them. Steve had a way, for me anyway, of bringing hope, and we talked about possibilities. We dreamed about Chicago Christian Ministries. We worked with the minis. I get to Flagstaff, and there's not one person I met at Flagstaff that I would never have met any of them. Not Larry and Betsy Hale and the Hale family. I wouldn't have met the minis, and being in the youth group with Martha. I came off some incredibly horrendous stuff, before I started hanging out with at the church. Geez, there was a period of time I was there like 6 days a week because I was so broken up and needing to be around God's people. And the Lion and the Lamb, and I mean, being with Steve was like this big adventure. I met Bill Hamilton, who rode a horse from Palm Springs, California to the Calvary Stampede, in 1850s, buckskin muskets. They literally rode horses and pack horses that whole distance. He even wrote a book about it. We had offices that we shared, and I got to hang out with some incredible people. We had some really good adventures. I had a year where somebody provided me a ski pass, probably Steve, provided me a ski pass, and I would just witness to kids, because once you got them on the chairlift, what are they going to do, jump? You know, and it's real easy. Wow, look at all this. Could this be random chance? You know, and we used to practice like, you know, and if it's not random chance, then could this all be created? I mean, the fact that I can enjoy this, the fact that I can appreciate this, you know, and Steve had a way of engaging people on that level. I mean, he would just like boldly start talking about Jesus and ask them about their life, and he just would get to know people, and he, you know, there were those gregarious times. I mean, I know he had a lot of the dark times, and he had a lot of times where he had to get up and walk away from his family, walk away from all the fun stuff that he loved to do, and go make the money so that, real honestly, a lot of us could do what we did. Those guys supported me when I got there. They treated me like a missionary. I was a missionary. You know, we set up a outdoor, you know, I was part of helping set up Outdoor Life and cooperating to put all the river trips together, and, you know, met my wife in this crew. And I mean, this is just, and I lost touch with Steve for a lot of years. I wouldn't call it I was concerned about where I saw things going, and I had to step away. And come to find out, when we reconnected in 2014, that when I stepped away, he was experiencing depression and bipolar and all kinds of stuff, which really made a lot of things make sense. Was it bipolar? Oh well. So, but it, you know, just that whole whatever he was dealing with, and that made it make a lot of sense. I'm gonna have to pause here. So here I am with these things. There's this poster. See, there's this poster, and it says risk. Security is mostly a superstition. It does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding the danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Helen Keller. And that's a picture of a climbing buddy of Bruce Whitey jumping the nose. And it says, photo of the pendulum on the nose route of El Capitan by Bruce Whitey. And that's an accurate peace pipe. And Tim Hansel's staff. And those things become significant because when I reconnected with Steve in 2014, we had a chance to catch up, and I found out what he'd been dealing with as far as depression and bipolar and whatever. I don't remember the combination, to be honest. But, you know, I know he was really hurting, and in the time of catching up, we were walking around the house, and he pulls this peace pipe off the wall, and he says, "Here, it's never been used, and someday maybe we'll try the peace pipe. You know, we'll, you know," and we, at that point, we reconciled. At least from my heart, I felt like it. And that peace pipe is a symbol of that reconciliation after a falling out over some theological differences and some family issues that, it turns out, really came back into focus when I understood the mental health issues that he dealt with. And because of those mental health issues, Steve, we lost touch. I mean, I think, you know, I lost touch with him because I stepped away, and then didn't get in touch because life got full and his life was in a different direction. I hadn't seen him in at least 20 years until 2014. And so he gives me this peace pipe, and so there's reconciliation there, and there's shalom. You know, anybody who knew Steve, at least the way I knew him, he really loved the Hebraic, and that whole Chicago Christian Ministries thing was awesome. For the run it had, we did a lot of good stuff. And so with that, you know, and we're talking some more later, and he goes over and he pulls this poster down. He says, "Here." Now that poster, from what I understand, what Steve told me, is the first one off the press. He you know, made a donation for it, or he probably just gave it to him. And he framed it, and it's been in pristine condition. And that poster has been a part of my life, and that attitude, you know. In Summit Expedition, this group, it was just to be able to serve Jesus Christ in any environment without perception of limit. See, that was the mission, that was the motto we came up, to be able to serve Jesus Christ in any environment without perception of limit. And the people that we hung with really worked hard at that. I mean, I was running 7 to 10 miles a day at that phase. Turned out my knees were not worth it. But that's when I was really into training and working on it. And so I went to Arizona to do the whole Chicago Christian Ministries, and it became Outdoor Life, and we did a lot of good stuff. And probably hundreds of people over the years have been able to have river trips. I know I've certainly taken a lot, and I'm still using gear that I got from that co-op. But Steve was such an integral part of all that. I wouldn't have met all of that would not have happened without him. I wouldn't have had the life that I have, where I've continued in many ways to have daring adventures. I work with Youth for Christ, and I hang out with Dane Turnell, a guy would remind you guys of Hansel. Okay, he's a Hansel kind of guy, loves kids, hangs out with kids all the time, hardcore mountaineer, 600 peak kind of guy, running a dirt bike race tomorrow. I love hanging out with people like this. What it all reminds me of is that crew that we had, that incredible crew. And when we had the crew, David Minnie, we got to meet Ralph and Cecilia Deathridge, and I remember Ralph being on that river trip, and Green and Jack Swenson and Dick and all the guys that were on that green trip, and Betsy and the worship that we used to have back then. Oh my gosh, it was incredible. It was glorious. The worship was just incredible and amazing. And so because of that, I forgot to take my glasses off again. Because of that, what a wonderful life. Thank you, Steve. Thank you so much, Steve. I really think you helped me. You see, the last thing Steve gave me was the staff that Tim Hansel used. And so for me, what this kind of says is Steve gave me back peace and reconciliation as shalom. And he reminded me of the risk and the hope and to go for it, because I was hurting. That was 2 years after my surgery, and I was on the chronic pain journey, and I was remembering Hansel and You Got to Keep Dancing, and Steve was hurting too. And so this is more like two old warriors getting together and sharing, wow. And he, over the next couple of years, over the next few years, he was a great encouragement. Right smack in the midst of all his struggles, so we kept in touch on a regular basis, through texts and memes and stuff. Amazing. And he was going to come out this summer, and we had some hope, and maybe a couple more adventures. So I look forward to the adventures. I look forward to being able to ski methane snow with you, bro. To climb 4-mile peaks and never get tired, to run and not be weary. So I know you're resting well. I know you're with Jesus. I love you, my friend. I love you, my friend. It was a good ride. We used to talk about how we wanted to run to the end and just flop across the finish line, just nothing left. Just nothing left. And I know the way you died. And I think I understand, because of Betsy and Chris, how it got that way. And I do understand it. I do understand just being to the end where you just go, it just hurts too much. And so I know there's grace. There's grace. There's grace, Steve. It's grace. And the dove goes off. There's a dove. Love all you guys. Blessings. I know I went long, but that's just me. Love you, Steve. You're still here. I know you can still do this. Steve, you were blessed to be a blessing. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for what you brought to all the lives, and I know, and there was a lot of pain and sorrow. Life is full. God is good. It's full of the hard stuff and the good stuff. And thank you for bringing all the good stuff that you did. And see you soon.